This episode of the Cherished Lounge is brought to you by Cherished LA. Cherished LA is a survivor-led nonprofit dedicated to empowering survivors of human trafficking and exploitation, while also equipping communities through education, advocacy, and hope. Through trauma-informed care, we're helping individuals discover healing, purpose, and a future filled with possibility. To learn more about our mission or get involved or support the work, visit cherishedla.org. That's www.cherishedla.org. Because every life has value and every story deserves hope. This episode is sponsored by Emerge with Hope. Emerge with Hope is a nonprofit organization dedicated to empowering lives confined to shelters and rehabilitative housing through the transformative, unifying power of music and movement. With their signature programs, they create safe, hope-filled spaces where participants build confidence, reduce stress, reconnect with themselves and others, and experience the healing power of creative expression. Because movement has the power to heal, restore, and remind every person they are not alone. My guest today is Michael Thornhill, MA, a salsa instructor, neurodivergent poet, somatic strategist, and empathetic witness, and he's an author. His Afro-Cuban roots run through every page of his book, The First, the Few, and the Only. This genre-expanding work moves beyond memoir, manifesto, and toolkit, offering language and insight for those navigating systems not built for them. Michael speaks directly to Black, Brown, and Asian readers about identity, survival, and belonging in spaces where they are often the only or the few. At the same time, his work turns toward white readers with a challenge to engage honestly with history, to recognize how it has been redacted or distorted, and to confront the discomfort of what is often called white fragility, choosing learning over defensiveness and curiosity over avoidance. At the center of this conversation is a deeper question about culture and systems, what it takes to build spaces where people do not have to shrink, code switch, or assimilate in order to belong. Let's join the conversation with Michael. Michael, it is so great to see you. It's been a long time.
It's been a long time, but we have done a lot of things in between that time, haven't we?
Yeah, we have. I think I've known you. I was trying to guess about maybe 7 or 8 years.
Mm-hmm.
And I think neither of us had written our stories, and we've been talking about these topics for a while.
Yeah. Yes. I think before either of us wrote any of this stuff down, we had been practitioners of this work for years.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah. And I don't know if you remember how we got connected.
No, I don't.
So I searched you out, and I had heard you on a podcast with Rachel and Adele. And you guys were talking about, it was right after Black Panther had come out.
That's right.
And I mean, it was brand new, days old, and you guys had gone to see it. And I was just like in love with the movie. And so somehow it popped up on my phone, and I heard you guys talking about it. And then I heard you just talking about your passion and the work that you ended up writing about. And I heard all of that. And between your conversations, I was grabbing some of that in my mind and my memory. And I was like, wow, I need to have a conversation with this guy. I wonder if that would be okay, because I'm running a nonprofit and I'm working with women from all diverse backgrounds. And being a white woman, I've run into some issues, and wasn't sure if the issues were really, was it cultural? Was it me? What was happening? And I just felt like you had something that I wanted to just talk to you about some of that. And it was really bizarre. And so I ended up, it took me a while to find you, and I reached out to you, and you were so generous, and you set up a Zoom call with me, and you talked to me. You were like, what is it that you do? And I told you everything. And I just said, I'm struggling and I'm not sure how I need to be better at this work, but I've got to do something. Something has to change.
Yeah.
And you recommended a book. And you even sat with me and read through some of the chapters with me and got me started in the book and had some deep conversations with me around it. So any of that ringing a bell? You remember who?
Yes, it's starting to ring a bell now. I mean, I can't remember what I ate last week, but you know. But no, I'm remembering some of this. Yes. Wow.
Yeah. So yeah, I just appreciate you so much. I deeply respect you. And
Thank you.
I just think, you didn't have to do that. You didn't have to explain anything to me. And you didn't really do that. You just gave me some questions to think about, and in a really generous way, and also confronting my own beliefs, or maybe not even beliefs, because I think that my beliefs and who I wanted to show up as are there, but I was so maybe programmed in a certain way of my upbringing of how to um, be with women and to be with younger women. So there were a lot of things at play, but definitely what was first in the room was that I was a white woman with these women. And so it was just amazing to start. That started my journey. And so I just wanted to say thank you for that.
Wow.
And I still have much, much to learn, but I thank you for pointing me in a direction. I really appreciate you.
Well, you are more than welcome and worthy of all that kind of care and attention. And I have to tell you, I remember we had, I think, a few conversations, right? Like we had ongoing conversations and dialogues around that. And I just really, I remember Brian Bantam's, Dr. Brian Bantam, from his book, Redeeming Mulatto, has this quote where he says, are doing work in the room that we don't know what to do, right? And it's doing something in the hearts and minds of those around you. And so I'm glad we were able to explore that together.
That's
but now
great.
Look at you now, right? You're an author, you have an audiobook. I got you up here on Amazon. You got the Kindle, the audiobook, the paperback. You know what I'm saying? You're doing your thing. I'm proud
and
of
I was
you.
thinking, thank you. Thank you. I was thinking about that too, like you and writing your book. I know for me, putting it on paper, for me, processing all that trauma and all that fragmentation and then putting it on paper.
Listen.
Yeah, I was thinking about you and all of that. And I wanted to tell you also, doing the Audible was like a whole nother step of healing. It was so great to walk through that. I know you're doing that right now. And so it's not easy.
No. There's stories that I forgot I wrote about. And yesterday we just finished chapter 10 on the audiobook, and I had chills and I got like choked up, confessing some of these stories, which I don't know how much your book felt like confession times 10, but like almost like torturous confession, where I was like, geez Louise, like, I can't believe I told that story. But also reading it out loud, I stepped out of the booth, and this young white guy who was helping one of the producers, he was like, bro, like, I never thought of that like that, man. I just want you to know, like, you made some things make sense for me in my life. I want to say thanks. I'm like, it's so easy to forget that, like, when you're doing the audiobook, I don't know if you experienced this, but that people that are walking through the book, you're guiding them through your book, that they're being impacted right there and right then, right?
Yeah.
Did you have any moments like that?
Yeah. Well, it was just my producer and I, because it was really, I needed it to be very kind of sacred and quiet. And
Yes.
I mean, it took me 2 years between actually releasing the book and then getting back in. I needed that 2-year gap because there was so much trauma in my book.
Of course.
The stories. And so I needed a 2-year gap to kind of do some more work on myself and those stories before I could go back in. But yeah, my producer had some questions for me that were great, that to hear somebody else's outside and a male perspective, hearing the stories, and that was one of the things I asked him before I came in. I said, what is your experience with hearing traumatic stories? How are you going to handle this?
Are you good, bro?
Yeah. Do you need therapy after this?
Yeah.
But for yours, absolutely. I mean, it deserves to have even an audience there while you're recording that, and people in real time having those conversations. And I mean, what an alive, living, just piece of work that, I was thinking about you. I'm like, you know what? You are a provocateur. That's who you are.
Yes.
You are a rewilder of hearts. That's what you are.
Wow. I got to write that down. Wait a minute. Hold on. That's going on a resume.
Yeah, that's a good one for a resume. Yeah.
That's a good one.
But you are that. Like
of hearts.
I can see how people, and I wondered for you, so I'm not naming this for you, I'm wondering about this for your experience, how you've written it, and people's, not only their responses, but just even in your own body, like, what a relief I can imagine to, like, all of this has been inside of you. You have had this voice for a long time, and it's been kind of brewing or cooking and coming together. And then all of a sudden you put it out on paper, and it's not just a relief to you. I imagine it's like to others. I'm curious about the response you've been getting from people, both Black and brown bodies and white people. Like, can you give us and then we want to actually talk about the book, but I want to hear what's been going on.
No, thank you for asking that. I just met with a 75-year-old former, mega church. What do you call those people where all the international missions go through them, and the funding and the trips to send folks to those international churches that they support? That guy, whatever that role is, he did it for decades. And so I'm sitting across a table from him, literally like an hour and a half ago. And he looks at me and he says, I just finished chapter 13 of your book. And I'm like, okay. And he says, I want you to realize something. He says, I still want to process this. When you close your eyes for the last time, and then you open them and see Jesus, you are going to see a host of people who have been touched by what you did in this book. What you have written has made me reflect and think upon. And look, he's like, I'm an old white guy, but the amount of melanated faces that I've had a chance to be a part of their lives, you're making me remember the faces here and how much I was a part of their lives versus a cog, I forget what word he used, but he was like, as a Christian, you are making me rethink not just what I did abroad, but what I did in my own neighborhood. And I just want you to know that you are blessing my life, and you will see that blessing when you open your eyes to see glory. And I was like,
wow. Yeah.
Whoa. Do you know what I mean? And this is a man I greatly respect, right? A ministry leader, a leader in his community, and a very devout, godly, spiritual man. And, I was kind of taken aback. I didn't know what to do. And he's like, I want you to know, Michael, you are a good man. And I was like, oh, I kind of need to hear that right now.
Oh, yeah.
Because it's so funny. I mean, before I go on that tangent, but then people of color, or melanated folks, I call them in the book, it has been a shocking response. I was at a book festival, and this African American woman was walking through, later I found out she had no expectation to buy any books. She was literally passing by, happened to see a tent in a book festival, was walking down the aisle, and had saw, my book and my hoodie, and was curious, seeing the, I'll see if I can pull it up real fast, seeing the black alpaca, surrounded by, the white fur alpacas. And she was like, "What is this?" And so she's looking through the book, and I can do this. And then what she found was like herself. And she said, "This is the image on the website. I don't know if you can see that, but that's the image in the book. And it's blurry, but it's fine. You can go to, thefirstoffuelandonly.com and see it. But my point is, she started crying because she said, "I didn't know how much I needed this book." You see, I just came up to Pittsburgh. I'm from the Carolinas. I'm from spaces where people look like me and some don't. But up here in the North, up here in Pittsburgh, I can never explain why it's different, but it is, and it hurts. And she said, "This book is everything I need right now to stay sane, because I don't feel like I belong here. And I've been here for 7 months." And she was like, "I have a great job. I have a great church community, but for some reason it's different and I can't explain it. I feel like I'm going crazy." I got another text today from a woman who I know personally. She's a leader. She's a great leader in the outdoor recreation gardening space here in Pittsburgh. And she was sitting across from a woman taking a video of her. And the woman opened the book, and on the other side of the table of contents, she had all these notes. And she's explaining, I have questions to ask the author. And then Clara, the woman that's mentoring this woman, who I met at a book festival and so booked her at a book festival. I don't know this woman. She texted me, she says, "Michael, you are doing an amazing work." And in talking to her, I did not realize how much I need your book too. I'll be buying a book and I will need a signature. Moments like that happen almost every day. And it has gotten to the point where, like, what felt like torture and devastatingly lonely isolation in naming and renaming and editing and renaming and sharpening these stories that really felt like you're taking knives out of your gut, right? And then sharing them with the world, that now that there's this community of the wounded who are also finding themselves reflected in my wounds. And that has been this, like, kind of flummoxing experience, because even though a similar theme in your book is that I will be your witness, you are not alone. Similarly, I took that posture, not knowing that was a theme in your book, right? But kindred hearts and kindred spirits, that there are so many melanated folks and friends and neighbors who are the only one with their face in the room, the school bus, the neighborhood, the office, the church pew, the balcony, the church choir, the church administration, the nonprofit administration, who are navigating a silent suffering that they're pretty sure their white friends can't digest or handle. And to finally put language to that, it was really for me, but it's a blessing to see that others are kind of finding their way home through it. So
amazing. I love that. I felt that when I was reading through it. I could feel like all of the people that you were, because I've heard it too from survivors. It's like, thank you for saying what I didn't say or what I need to say. And I know I could read that in your book. Like, I'll be honest, reading your book as a white person, first of all, I was hungry for it. I want to read this. I want to understand it. And also I'm just saying, people need to understand you are going to read parts, and isn't this what it's about? We're going to turn it to ourselves and start thinking of all the things to try to defend maybe a behavior or maybe a thought. but to hear you to break down all the different categories that you did, is that a good word? Categories for that?
Yeah, no, tropes, categories. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't realize, and I was like, oh my gosh, I bet I could just feel like other bodies are probably feeling relief that you said it. You said it, and I just imagined all the faces I've been around that have felt it, that didn't say it to me, what was going on internally for them, and what I might have been a part of creating in situations for them to feel that
Absolutely.
way. And so, it's listen, this book, I want to say this. If I had to write a review, here's my review. This book will make you burn your supper, because I have been trying to cook my dinner every night. And every night I'm like, because I only had the book a week now. I just got it, and I've been trying to read through it. You told me to read certain chapters, but I did. But you know what I did? I went to the back where it says white eyes. I skimmed through it, and then I got to that. And I was like, let me see what he's going to say. And so I went through that, and I have been trying to cook my dinner while I'm reading it, and I'm burning every night. Our dinner has been burned because I keep forgetting I have stuff cooking, and I'm good. And I am just going through. I absolutely love the way that you put nuggets, like little diamonds, are sprinkled all through the whole book, because he has all these QR codes to our listeners. If you get this book, you must get this book. But in this book, he has QR codes spread out, and they will link you to all kinds of things that you need to. It's taking you through Michael's brain, but it is amazing. That's how I looked at it. I was like, wow. And then you researched this, and then you found this, and then oh my gosh, and you watched this interview, and then this. And it was so good. So good. So
thank you.
Yeah.
So first of all, you have to write that review, by the way. Like, I need that. And also, do you know another like secret calculated reason why I did that?
Why?
So I'm very charismatic. I'm a salsa instructor. I'm very I'm a, public speaker. Like, people know me as, and they usually make an assumption: black and brown man, big smile, joyous, amicable, right? Cheery, fun. They usually assume there's not a whole lot of depth there, right? But one of my secret superpowers, which I shouldn't confess on your famous soon-to-be podcast, is that I'm wildly calculated, and so sometimes I play up that bubbly part because I'm like, I know that people will wrap their arms around that. But one of the secret reasons I did so many QR codes was because I expected the algorithm to get more warped and the algorithm to get more controlled. And what I mean by that is I call the QR codes personally my algorithm breakers, because what will happen is if you interact with the QR codes throughout the book, what's going to start to happen is the algorithm is going to start pulling things that are like the educational resources that I'm giving you. So, and about 85 to 90% of all the content that you'll find in the QR codes is by Black content creators. And so your Instagram, your TikTok, and your YouTube will start to pull like Black scholars versus Black athletes, right? Because a lot of white people and a lot of Black people are taught that if we need to know what Black people think, we're going to ask a Black entertainer or a Black athlete. But in no other ethnicity in the US do for example, let's say the president does something dumb, or President Biden falls, or George Bush takes a tumble. No one runs and says, where's Justin Bieber? Oh my God, we have to know what he thinks about this, right? No one says, what does Taylor Swift think about the GDP? What are we going to do? And that. But they sure as hell go ask 50 Cent, or they'll go ask Jay-Z, or go ask some Black entertainer what they think, right? They'll ask a Black athlete about what they think. They'll ask LeBron what he thinks about something around policy or government. And I am a deep believer that Black athletes and entertainers are not Black scholars, thinkers, and leaders. They're leaders in their sport, right? But I don't ask my sociology professor at school about water treatment and how to avoid fracking getting in my water, right? Like, that's not their expertise.
Right.
And so the QR codes was a way to empower, like, I imagine, I say this with a hard wink, wink. I imagine, two little Haitian boy and girl getting adopted into an all-white family, rich family, and being totally ostracized from anything Black culture, stumbling upon this book and finding algorithm breakers that will pull Black scholars and Black thinkers around them to help them regain their righteous mind.
Oh my
right?
gosh, you are brilliant.
No,
Brilliant.
thank you. I feel more calculated than brilliant, but thank you.
No, that's brilliant. And it already has happened, because my Facebook today already had a bunch of other things on there. So that explains what, and I was like, oh good, I was going to look this up. Oh my gosh. So it's already happening. I'm so grateful. I am so grateful that you did that. Yeah. So to people listening, I want to say to people of color and white people listening to this, like, this book is about, it's for me, it's a book that I have to sit with. Like, I have to sit with each part and I need to process it. And you need to, for white people, I can speak to, I can say, please read this book with curiosity about yourself. Please avoid those thoughts that come in that want you to start defending and making you think about how you can, how you did something because of this reason or whatever. Stop. Just try to just put all that aside and really think about, what if we actually don't have the whole story? Because that seems to be one of the pieces when we're talking about history that you've really made me aware of. I mean, I've been hearing this for a while, but
you're not new to the game.
Not really, but sometimes still, because when you asked me to name 5 anti-racist white people,
abolitionists,
I had to stop. I did not have them in my brain. And I was like, I am so ashamed of myself for not having.
And
this
I give
answer.
you 2. I'm like, here's 2. So really, just asking for 3.
Well, the page before that, it had the blank, and I was like, I'm gonna fill in 5. Right. I flipped over. I'm like, oh no, he wants more. I don't know. But and I would say to, I can't say to people of color about this book. I just think you will feel so happy that Michael has written this book. I imagine, and I just feel that it is really, like I said, all of the different QR codes and it's just amazing. All of the research and all the pieces you have put in there. And that's why I kept burning my dinner, because I kept like going off and I couldn't stay in the one chapter you told me to stay in, because I wanted to look and listen and read and watch everything. So, but this book it's something that you have to sit with and think about. I mean, you're talking about assimilation, you're talking about tokenism, passing, the things that I hadn't, or not in the forefront of my mind: code switching, colorism, resume whitening. I mean, these are things that, and then I love that you go into, white fragility and the decentering instead of feeling excluded, understanding that, what that really is. I was like, whoa, yeah. I mean, you were speaking to me, and it was really, really impactful. So what do you want to say to readers? And then I want you to just talk about the different things, like even that I've named, like if you want to talk about tokenism and colorism, and tell our readers more about this.
Yeah. I definitely want to just say, like, first of all, just thank you for reading White Eyes Only. I wrote that like kind of with a like cheeky wink to Tupac's All Eyes on Me, because that's oftentimes what I feel like when you talk about this stuff. When I was doing DEI, for the listeners, I call myself a recovering DEI practitioner, and that it was always this like all eyes on me feel where it's like, I gotta help you take your eyes off yourself for a second. But let's put all eyes on you, white eyes only, right? And that section, I took all my best DEI trainings that like Northwestern or University of Michigan or Fortune 500 companies would hire me and pay me thousands of dollars to do. And I put basically my 3 best trainings, I put them all into an appendix for free. And so it's like $15,000 to $25,000 worth of training in there. So it's like felt like a sacrifice, but it was also my like kiss goodbye to DEI. Of just like I did my best there. But as far as like tokenism, tokenism is something that everyone acknowledges, but it's like hard to define. And I define it like this: tokenism is a structural imposition. Period. It's a structural imposition that is by design, that is intentional, that has thought behind it. And I was talking to the president of a very fancy and wealthy company in Pittsburgh, and he confessed to me, he was like, Michael, I gotta be honest with you, after hearing your talk, you're right. I walked into a room, and he was like, better yet, I'll tell you a real story. I walked into a room of African-American lawyers, doctors, and businessmen on top of some floor in some fancy ballroom. The elevator door opened. I walked out, and it was all these Black people in suits and dresses, and my eyes immediately scanned for any white people. And then within about 10 minutes of being there, I was ready to leave. And then if it wasn't for like this one Black guy I know coming over and saying, man, join the party. What are you doing standing by yourself? And then he invited him to join the party. And he was like, the funny thing is, Michael, that's all I really wanted, was to be invited into the party. But then I also had all this fear that I don't know where that comes from. But once I got invited to the party, which I was already invited to and welcome to, I just felt like I had the best night ever. And when he told me that, I was like, well, what makes you bring that up? And he says, because you're right. My body is doing work that I don't know it's doing. And I'm also becoming aware of the fact that brown bodies do something to me, whether I like it or not, whether I admit it or not. And when I showed up and I was the only white dude, one of 2 white dudes, I wanted to leave. And then hearing you talk makes me realize how much I'm okay with that being normal for every Black and brown person that ever comes to this building. And that makes me sick to my stomach.
Wow.
And I was like, dude, I love that. I was like, we got to process that, man. And thank you for that. It's an honor to witness that confession, And so I think that's what tokenism is. And there's a quiet violence to tokenism, to making that the designated norm for every ethnicity but your own, And so I thought that story was worthy of being witnessed, worthy of being named and noticed, because I do not give any answers in this book. I'm sorry to ruin it for any listeners, but I think there is beauty, and this is part of our training too, Kate. Like, there is beauty to just sitting with the story. There is a goodness to just naming and just noticing what comes up with that naming. There's healing in only naming and noticing. And then from there, we can walk together towards the wound and the healing. But first comes the naming. First comes triage, So.
And now a word from our sponsors. This episode of the Cherished Lounge is proudly sponsored by Damaris Hope. Damaris Hope is a nonprofit serving women working in the commercial sex industry and survivors of human trafficking and exploitation throughout greater Atlanta area. Their mission is simple but powerful: to meet women where they are with compassion, practical support, and hope, walking alongside them without judgment as they pursue healing and a new future. To learn more about their work or find ways to get involved, visit damarishope.org. That's DAMARISHOPE.org. Our thanks to Damaris Hope for supporting survivor voices and helping make these conversations possible. And now back to the show. one of the recommendations in the book was to watch some films. And
Oh,
the film, I had seen this before, but I was glad that you wrote it in there so I could go watch it again.
mm,
Race to Dinner with Regina Jackson.
yes.
Um,
Love that documentary.
yeah, I looked them up. They're still doing that. She's still doing some dinners like
I
that. And
love
I
that.
think they even have virtual. I just want to plug that. So, everybody that you go check out Race to Dinner with Regina Jackson. Really interesting. And so, just one of the things that I noticed in that was, how that made me feel when
Mm,
I watched that a second time.
mm,
And knowing, like, the first time, I don't think I was, as understanding about, I might have been the woman over there that was crying. And
mm.
then, watching it again, I was annoyed with her. Um,
Yep.
so yeah, I don't even remember where I was going with that, but you had brought that up into, it's,
In the White Eyes
yeah,
Only. Yeah.
yes. So you
And
have so many good things in there to look at. Mhm.
yeah, amen. And for the listeners, the documentary she's referring to is entitled Deconstructing Karen, and you can find it on
Oh, yes.
Apple TV for
Yes.
rent or for purchase. So
Deconstructing Karen. That's right.
yes, yes.
It's great.
Um, it's super fun because if you actually go to chapter 7, it's entitled I Am Not Your Negro. And I spent a lot of time talking about how a lot of TV shows and films that we digest, particularly here in the US, are riddled with tokenistic sort of backdrops and character lineups. And so if you've ever seen the movie Clueless, right? It's like Clueless everywhere you go, right? There's usually a dumb blonde, right? Friends, right? Like Phoebe. And then, unlike Friends, there's a tokenistic sort of black, sort of like friend, right? Which is really more like a proof against racism of I'm not racist. I have Stacey Dash, right?
Mm.
Um, but what I critique is that diet has an impact on how you see life and how you expect life to be, how you expect work to be, how you expect church to be. It's the part of you that, like my friend who goes to the top floor for a fancy event with some pretty upper class people. As soon as he realizes he's the only white guy, he wants to leave, but he's okay with that, and he was very open and honest about why am I okay with that with everyone else. But when you are always watching TV shows and always watching movies, and the only place you see mostly black and brown bodies is when they're doing a sport for your entertainment, that affects what you expect in the real world,
Mm-hmm.
the world where you live. And
Mm-hmm.
so I Am Not Your Negro addresses that online, offline sort of non-duality. And it brings up a laundry list. It is password protected, so you do have to get the book in order to find out all the resources.
Yeah, it's just such a rich book, Michael.
Thank
Honestly.
you.
I mean,
Thank you.
I've only had it a week and I have like a list of notes here, but it's just been, I haven't even touched the surface of,
Yeah.
all of the depth of this book. Like I said, I just keep skimming through it, trying to get nuggets off of each piece
Yeah.
and read different parts. But yeah, I did read some of those letters and they were beautiful.
Yeah.
Really
Which was your
beautiful.
favorite letter, if I may ask?
I think I was the one to your children.
Yeah. That's a tearjerker.
Yeah.
That's a tearjerker. Yeah.
Yeah.
I read it to some friends and they started weeping, and I was like, all right,
Yeah.
all right.
Yeah.
The cool
But I
story,
do
my
love
son. Yeah. What do you love?
I do love that you wrote to these people that, like you said, have taught you so much that aren't even here anymore, but people that have
Mhm.
taught you um, through history and through what you've witnessed of their lives,
Mhm.
and
Yeah.
just acknowledging that. I think that was really beautiful.
Thank you. The coolest part about my favorite section is it's the only section I can read to my kids. They're a little too young to hear all the other content.
Yeah.
Um, but my son, ever since he helped me sell some books at the book festival, my
Oh,
first book festival here in Pittsburgh, and he'll be like, "Daddy, can you read to me from your book?" for bedtime. And I'll be like, yeah, son, sure thing, buddies, And then I'll read to, the letter to him and his sister. And then I'll read the letter to me, or I'll read the letter to my best friend. And then, and then they're out within 2 letters, by the way. They're gone.
Yeah.
But there's something special about reading to them from their special edition books, there's only like 7 of these books in the world, the hardcover version that I have for them, but it's a pretty special moment. You want to know the hardest chapter to write? You know what the hardest chapter to write was?
Yes.
Chapter 13. It was the last chapter I wrote. I had damn near the whole book done, and then I went back and I was like, I haven't finished this chapter. Oh my God! Like,
you added it in.
I don't have the copyright number.
Did you add it in after?
No, it was already set there, but I just kept avoiding it. So for everyone listening, chapter 13 is the evangelical church, and it's my experience in it, and in the American church. And so that was hard to name,
I have it earmarked on just looking through it. So this is the book. I don't know if everybody can see because it's pretty bright in here, but this is the book, and this is the picture Michael's talking about. And yeah, I have so many places underlined in here. What really struck me was I was on chapter 10, where I was listening to the interview of the sister, and she was talking about her and her brother being. I think they were talking about, this chapter is about different shades of belonging. And I feel like I just kept going back to this chapter a lot. But like I said, there's so many good pieces here that you have to take your time really and read through this. But in one part, I think it was in that one where somebody's talking about the saying, and I won't even try to. I would butcher the language. Won't even try it.
Or Bejonanda la raza?
Not neither here nor there. Like belonging.
Yo no soy ni de aquí o ni de allá.
Yes.
Yeah. Wow. I'm not from here or there. Yeah.
That really struck me, and I was like the deep longing, and just the moments like that, just sitting with that and thinking what people have to live with every day, and something that is not something I've had to think about ever.
Okay. Yeah. And for the listener, like the people from your church can never feel like they're from that church. The people from your neighborhood are made to feel that they're never from that neighborhood. When reversely, so many of my white friends will go to like Puerto Rico or some melanated country, and they'll be like, I felt so welcome. Oh my gosh, I want to live here. I want to move here. And it's like, you ever wonder how like you go and consume that there, but you come back here and like let Megyn Kelly like live on your screen and talk about how Haitians need to just go home? And but you're okay with that? Like
what? And
like hold on. So you're happy to go be a welcomed guest, but you come here and you're like a fucked up host.
Yeah.
Or like not even a fucked up host, like fellow countrymen. Like that's like that kind of lack of alignment is, I'll never be able to compute that, But it's that kind of stuff you got to confront, man.
Yeah. Yeah. It's just, I think what is starting to make more people divide and recognize, some people are beginning to recognize, like you said, this is not alignment. This is not what I truly believe. And now this person who I may have thought was somebody I should respect or listen to, and now the like true colors, show up. And then you start going, wait a minute, I do not align myself with that. I find myself doing that a lot more with everything. Social media, people, just everything is starting to starting to really divide, like, what do I want as a part of my alignment and my world and people
Absolutely.
that yeah.
And that, yeah, good. Yeah.
Well, I think also I was noticing in this, I was struck by this statement. American means white. Everyone else is hyphenated.
Mm,
And that really struck me, something I hadn't thought about.
mm, yeah,
It
say more.
totally makes sense.
Mm, mm-hmm.
So tell me more about what was happening when you wrote that and what you were like, what are the people and the experiences you're thinking of?
Yeah, yeah. So in that section, I remember just being really aware of the fact that um, the fact that unmelanated folks think that they're the default is somewhat facilitated by the language that we live within, right? In English in America and the US, that you're not even self-aware that you're white. You're more like, I'm here.
Yeah.
Right? Like, I'm just a great soccer mom. I'm just a dad.
Yeah.
I'm just Uncle Johnny. I'm just a grandma. And then everyone else gets sort of like racially categorized. And, a lot of unmelanated, white culture is not often aware of how they culturally transmute racism. But I had a white woman ask me something about like, how come you're so comfortable talking about race? Because we don't talk about it. And I was like, yes, you do. I was like, you're just not used to hearing it in the direct, clear terms that Black and brown people have rehearsed at their dinner tables for generations. You talk about racist ideas when the media hyperfocuses on the racial identity of different people that are reported on and ignores the racial identity of anyone that's not like that's white. So, for example, you'll be at home and then something happens and the race of the person is mentioned on the news, and then grandma will say something really fucked up, or your dad will say something really messed up, and about that story and about maybe that people group. And that is how racism is perpetuated. That's just how it's talked about. White households talk racially. Black and brown households talk about race and racism. And so it's in the middle of that sort of reality that this idea of being hyphenated. So, like, either they're going to say a slur in a white household, or they'll say African Americans or, blank Americans, right? Um, but if you ever had any Black friends, really have Black friends that are comfortable around you, and you don't expect them to always be like the token in your white spaces, we gonna talk about white people. Like, white people do some weird stuff, right? Raisins and potato salad. How dare you? Right? Get that out of here. Right? No one asked you to do that. Putting apples in random stuff. Like, nobody asked you to put apple and steak together. Like, what's happening? You know? And it's funny because we know how to talk about race and we know how to talk like about it. Um, and but more often than not, white bodies will wince at the talk of race because it's only brought up in a racist manner in their households, right?
Yeah.
And so that hyphenation lives at the intersection of that cultural dynamic, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well. Oh, there's so much.
That's a good breath.
I know. I can feel it in my body. I'm like,
yeah. Mm-hmm. G-Ma. You mean the same G-Ma that was like in the same age as the people in the black and white photos that were screaming racist stuff at Ruby Bridges in your textbooks? Nobody asked where Grandpa was during those times.
Right?
Right? Grandpa, where were you when the one school was integrated?
Mm-hmm.
Were you where you're supposed to be? Or you play hooky and yell at people walking down the street?
Mm-hmm.
Right? We don't want to talk about that. Right? But the real idea of hyphenation is about inheritance. It's this idea of that, why do I have to inherit this, not modulator, what do you call that word? Like qualifier? Like a hyphen is a qualifier, right? Um, that is a Neil deGrasse Tyson. He's this like amazing astrophysicist, right? He talks about how he really appreciated. He's Afro-Latino, by the way. So shout out to being Afro-Latino. We're amazing. And to all my Afro-Latino listeners, he talks about how when he was an astrophysicist and the astrophysicist at the school wasn't available for comment when the news called for comment on some asteroid or comet, he was really taken aback by they didn't call him a Black astrophysicist. They just said astrophysicist Neil deGrasse Tyson. Right?
He was upset by that?
No, he was aware of the difference. And he became famous off that interview, and he was just known as astrophysicist Neil deGrasse. And I think I'm saying his name right, Neil deGrasse Tyson. And he was saying how not whether it was by error or by happenstance or by real due diligence by the reporting team, he said how nice it was to not be the Black astrophysicist, that he was just an astrophysicist, right? But that's a rare inheritance. Most people get qualified, right? You know? And I imagine a lot of your audience gets qualified in the circles they enter. Oh, she's a woman, but she's one of, she used to be one of those women, right? That the idea of needing a qualifier before just being human or being what you're good at, it does harm.
Yes, it does. Which makes me think of, you were talking about belonging and being an identity, and it made me wonder about you, what your defining moment was. Fitting into other people's expectations, was costing you, like, because you wrote this book, because you have recognized this is enough for everyone, having to fit into boxes, and just your whole life. I know your story, your childhood, but at what point did you realize, like, I know when you moved from Florida, was it then? Was it later in life?
One thing I realized early was when I moved from Fort Lauderdale, Florida, more specifically Coral Springs. And if anybody knows Coral Springs, Florida, shout out to JP Taravella High School. When I got plucked from there, from a senior class of like 600 students, or however many were in the senior class, of all different kinds of shades of sugar. And then I was placed in an all-white, like, separate high school that was made for just the rich part of town and the rich white kids, called Neshannock. And I realized very quickly, I'm not saying I was the most popular kid in Florida, but I was pretty well known. And so to go from being like a popular kid.
I'm not surprised, Michael.
But it was a big school. Like, I mean, I wasn't like top of the food chain. Let me just tell you that. Like, it was more like I was like a good middle management, like a strong middle manager. You know what I mean? Like other popular terms. But I just knew what it meant to not be like a peewee when you walked into a room. Do you know what I'm saying? And to hold your own. And so then when I got to Neshannock, and then it was so weird how like people treated you in a way as if it was like you're supposed to fall in line with a certain script. So like people be like, yeah, bro, like, did you hear about that Weezy concert? And I'm like, Lil Wayne? Like, nobody give a damn about Lil Wayne. I'm talking about Lecrae. I want to find out what his cross movement's doing. Well, I know where Flame's gonna be at next. What do you mean? And they would be like, yeah, man, like, you like basketball, right? And I'm like, well, first of all, screw you. That's very stereotypical. I'm like, I like soccer. So, what do you do with that? And I just feel like a walking, like, Morty's mind blowers. Shout out to Rick and Morty, where it was just like, why do y'all keep trying to engage us with these played out stereotypes? And then we started to realize we're breaking the unwritten rules. We're breaking the unwritten cultural laws where Black people are supposed to do these things. And then when they found out we're Afro-Cubano, they're like, what? I'm like, yes, Cubans can be Black and Black people can be Spanish. And so I started to realize that dissonance between who we are versus how like people interacted. And we got to the point where we actually stayed home most of our senior year. Like, we didn't go out to hang out. We didn't want to go anywhere. And then I remember one time, one kid was like, "You want to go hang out at Sheetz?" And we were like, "A gas station? Yeah, you lost your damn mind. I'd rather sit home and watch Powerpuff Girls. Like, hell no. I got dead in no Sheetz eating fries at a gas station? What?" And so for me, it was like then that I realized not only are we not in Kansas anymore, but that there is a script that certain white bodies, the white imagination, expects you to comply with. And if you don't, all of a sudden it feels like you sort of messed around too much in the dreams of someone that you don't like belong to, like in Inception, right? Like you start messing with someone's dream and everyone looks at you and stops and you're like, right? And if you mess with things too much, they'll come for you.
Yeah.
That's what it felt like.
Wow. That's a great description. Yeah.
And that's when I noticed, I was like, oh, hold on. But I didn't have language for what that was.
Yeah.
I didn't have language for what it meant to be sort of like tokenized or untokenized and, to assimilate and not know the rules of assimilation yet, to code switch and not really have that other mask to wear yet that makes your Black and brown friends more digestible to you, right? It's not that they're turning off who they are, but code switching means they're removing most of the pie and giving you as much flavor as they think you can handle. If your friends have to code switch around you, it's an indictment against you. Because they probably have like 25 gallons of personality and humanity, and they're pretty sure, or you've taught them that you can only handle probably 3.5 milliliters. That's what code switching means.
Oh my gosh.
And that there's a cost to holding that back all the time. 25 gallons can get heavy.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's why all the Black kids sit together in the cafeteria. Shout out to Dr. Beverly Danielle Tatum's book, right? Who wrote an incredible seminal read about that. I remember when I went to an all-white Christian college, not Christian, we'll call it, well, when I went to an all-white evangelical space for college for 2 years, I remember getting that book and finding it was almost like someone picked up that 25-gallon, thing and gave me a hot shower. And it was just like, oh, like I'm not crazy, I remember I was so deprived of like being around people of color that looked like me. One day I got this idea and I was like, I went to like every Black girl on campus, which was like 4 people, like 7 people. And I was like, do you want dinner with me? And they were like, yes. And I invited them all at the same time at the same location. And so they all showed up and I had
Did they know that you were doing that?
No. No. But I wanted to fuck with all the white people. So like, I was like, I want a table of all Black women and me, and I want to just talk about how everybody's doing. Now, it probably wasn't the best way. And before you criticize me, slow your roll. And why don't you reflect on the first time you did drugs and if you were right and how old you were? So deal with that and then judge me. Anyway,
okay.
So, me, I'm sitting at a table with all these Black women, and they're like, they didn't know what to do. I mean, it was crazy, but my objective was I wanted to see how Black women were feeling. And I wanted to just be around women of color, which I felt like comfortable around.
Mm-hmm.
And then that never happened again. But for me, I was so desperate to just be surrounded with like people that look like me, just for a sense of just like I can sit down my 25 gallons and just sort of let like be in a pool of just who we are together. And so it's like, honestly, being around other people of color where you can like put down your mask or your code switching is the same feeling that women get when they can take off their bra at the end of the day.
Yeah.
That's what that shit feels like.
Wow. Think about that. Yeah, I'm just processing that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so, that's what it's like.
Yeah, I mean, seriously though, I do think of the fragmentation.
Yeah, what's coming up for you?
The fragmentation that it must
that's what it is
happening, and how like at least for like my trauma, which is no comparison, but I'm just saying what the context I have is, for every like 1 year of exploitation, it's a 5-year recovery. So that's where I'm working on my fragmentation. Like that's like a timeline of working on my fragmentation. But for people of color, like that's the only place my brain could connect. And just trying to think like the fragmentation, the work of pulling that back together. Oh my gosh, like the community is so needed. And I think your book is doing that, is the bringing the community together so that those fragmented places can become whole again. And there can be discussion around that because like you said, it has to be named. And I'm sure it is being named more than I would be aware of, but I mean, being named amongst each other, just like when you're with people who have experienced what you've experienced, there is so much healing in that. That's what it's bringing up for me.
So, amen. Wow. I think Toni Morrison was once asked, Toni Morrison, author of The Bluest Eye, award-winning author. Look her up if you don't know who Toni Morrison is, Toni. She was asked, how do you survive whole in a world that demands fragmentation from Black and brown bodies? And she said, who says you get to survive whole? She said, fragmenting is part of what it means to survive here. The question is, are you going to lose so many fragments where you can't like have much of who you are left? And that's more or less what she said. The link to that video will be in book 2 because it is referenced heavily. There's a whole chapter on fragmentation and code switching in book 2. And I remember when I heard that, I felt like sadness, but also like relief. Because it almost feels like to try to be whole, like, I'm going to piss some people off when I say this.
Go ahead.
It's like trying to be like, I'm sorry, y'all.
No, you're not.
I'm not. No, I'm not sorry at all. It's like trying to say you're a virgin after having like a bunch of partners and be like, I'm trying to be a virgin again. Listen, honey, you know too many skills and tricks and positions to be trying to be like, you trying to be a virgin again. Honey, that ship has sailed. Okay. So it's that's what it feels like trying to be whole again, where it's just like, so, in some evangelical spaces are like, I'm a born again virgin. I'm like,
right. How's that working out?
How's that working for you, honey? Like, no. And so, what you're really reaching for is redemption and renewal. And I'm not saying that you can't have that. But what I am acknowledging is this idea that to have that, you're trying to get back to somewhere you can't go. I feel like is a setup. And trying to be whole as a Black and brown body, and where, for example, thanks be to God, like you got out of the sex industry, right? Black and brown people never get out of the U.S. industry. Yeah. And sometimes you'll go to like a carnival, or you'll go to like the Caribbean, or you'll go visit someplace in Africa, some country in Africa. And just so everyone knows, Africa's bigger than Russia, just so you guys know. Your maps are lying to you. Anyway, as I continue. And so, but you get these wisps and sips of relief, and then you come back into a space where fragmentation is the occupational hazard of being Black and brown in the United States of America. Period.
Say that again.
Fragmentation is the occupational hazard of being Black and brown in the United States of America. Point blank, period.
Yep.
And the problem is most generations don't have language for it. You stumble into fragmentation, like throwing a kid into a dark room, you stumble into it and you figure it out. right? After integration, when all your teachers are white women, that's by design. That's by design. Do you know that there's white teachers that have called ICE on their students that they think are like not here legally?
Disgusting. That is just
James Baldwin said that Black and brown children can't learn from educators who hate them.
right.
You're sitting here like I've had white teachers who I thought loved me, but they were like racist as hell. On the weekends, they're listening to the most ultra conservative and racially charged like news outlets all weekend. Right? And if before you get on me about, hey, what about liberals? I don't give a rat's ass if you are a liberal or a conservative. Because guess what? As long as you live in a binary, both can be controlled, that might be too much for you. So you think everything you believe and all the ancestors you come from and all the inheritance that you received theologically in your Judeo-Christian framework of the world can be reduced to a certain political party that's only been alive for what? 80 years? You think all the desert mothers and all the desert fathers that are part of your inheritance as a believer in Jesus Christ or in Islam that can be reduced, or in Judaism, can be reduced to a donkey or an elephant? Like, how dare you?
Right.
How dare you? You know? And so, anyway, I'm not going to ride that horse. You can read chapter 15 called Burning House Politics to find out what I think about that. But my point is, if I can find it again, is that at the end of the day, to be Black and brown is to be fragmented. And to be fragmented is to, in some ways, I believe it's a game of acceptance, but also defiance, right? And I'm not trying to make a false equivalency to the sex industry, but I would imagine that anyone surviving a system of harm and abuse, there's a certain degree to which you have to play the game to get out of the game.
Well, to survive it, to live in it.
To survive it. Yeah, just to survive.
Yeah.
And then that's a whole nother level if you're trying to actually get out.
Yeah.
Right?
Right.
But to survive it, there's certain parts of you that are gone. But there are some parts of you that you hold on to. An amazing movie that I loved was with Jennifer Lawrence, and it was Russian. She was a spy. She was forced into the sex industry. Anyway, if anyone in the comments, please put it under the podcast. And Robert, I know what you're talking about.
I think I saw that.
Yeah. I don't know if you like the movie or not. What I loved about the movie was when her mother figured out what was happening, and all she said to her was, "Don't let them have it all. Don't let them have everything." And I feel like that's the other half of what Toni Morrison said, where it's like, who says you get to survive whole? And the mother of Jennifer Lawrence in that movie, before her daughter gets pulled into an entire designed network, in the movie, which I think is set in Russia, of exploitation and harm and abuse and trauma, right? Don't let them have everything. And that's what saves her.
Wow.
That's what saves her life. She didn't let them have everything.
Right.
And I think that's what it takes, to be a Christian here. I think, and, if you want to talk Judeo-Christian imagination and eschatology, if you want to think about the brides, some who had oil left over and some who didn't, I think if you let the world have everything, you're not going to have anything left for the groom when he comes, right? But the brides who had some oil left and did not share with the other brides, I don't know if I'm right here, but I think that you don't give it all away, right? You don't give all of yourself away to whatever political party. That's not your full identity, right? Whatever, church you go to, or, I don't know, take your pick, right?
Yeah.
But these don't carry all of who you are, and you don't give all of you are to it. And I think that's what it means to survive fragmented in a melanated body in the U.S.
Yeah. That's good. Really good.
That code switching saves your life.
But remember who you are.
Mufasa.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because that's a, Disney. I think that's a Pixar movie, right?
I don't remember, but it's a good movie.
The secret of Pixar, they said that they didn't seek out to make children's movies. They said that they sought out to make adult movies that children could watch.
Mm.
And I think there's something about that where it's like they talked about big things that a child could see. And I think there's something really beautiful about that. I think that's the best sermon, right?
Right.
I think that's the best movie. That's the best play, right?
Yeah,
that's the
there's
best art.
something about us as humans that we can receive that we can, it will seep in. Like it's.
Yeah.
Yeah. The innocence of, but the truth.
Yeah.
My gosh, Michael, we got to have a part 2 because we haven't even, like I said, I still have so much to read, and I apologize to you for not having been able to read the whole book before we talk.
Don't do that.
And to my listeners too, because you guys, there's so much more that, you know, and there may be questions you wish I had asked, and I'm not afraid to, so send them in. And I would love to have more conversation with Michael about any of this that has already come up or more that he's still working on. I didn't even know there was a second book already in the making.
Yeah, no, the second and third are already written.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah,
Michael.
They just don't have their QR codes yet. And I'm working on a screenplay for Marvel right now. So
what?
Yeah.
Man.
And I have to make the website for book 2 and 3. It's just the whole thing.
Oh my gosh. This is just so much. There's so much. I'm telling you, the rewilder of hearts.
Wow.
Yeah.
I received that. Someone's got to give you a run for your money, Kate.
Well, you are. And now I got to play catch up. Let's see what I can do.
Touche.
Michael, I'm so proud of your work. I am so, and I don't even like saying that because I feel like that's something you shouldn't say to people, that you're proud of them. Who are you to be proud of anybody? But I'm just so moved by your work. Let me just say it like that. I'm so moved by your work that it's such a great and needed reset and a challenge and all the things that need to happen. The journey is going to be long, and I'm here for it. And I'm just grateful for people like you that are, I mean, you're one of the only ones I know that is the way you are. And I love the way you are. And
Aww. Can I tell you something? Let me say this. You would send me the sweetest messages when I was still in the ministry. And what you didn't know is I was dying there. When you read chapter 13, you'll see. I was literally dying. I had a therapist to survive the marriage, which ended. I had a therapist to survive the ministry, which I eventually escaped out of. And I was meeting with 2 therapists a week, sometimes twice a week. And I was suicidal because of the pressure of it all. And once in a while, I would get a message from Kate, and it would just be this glowing, like, I just have to tell you how much you matter. And sometimes that got me to the next sunrise.
Oh my gosh.
And so I just want you to know that, like, I'm thankful for you. Your words matter and have saved lives. And this book may not have happened without your obedience to the unction of whatever you want to call it. I know what we call it, but that unction, and just to follow that, because I'm convinced that there are a lot more people who are hurting, that just like Jesus, the disciples were there to comfort Jesus in Gethsemane, but because they didn't, I think the angels that came to comfort Jesus were plan B. Because I think if the disciples would have been there for Jesus and stayed awake, the angels would have never had to go comfort Jesus. And I think that was his dad stepping in. And I think that there are people like you that were obedient, and that because of that, God didn't have to send an angel. And so I'm thankful for you. Your voice is powerful. And I think a lot of ministers and men suffer quietly, very quietly, because who you're going to talk to, who you're going to tell. Yeah. And if you're in ministry and having those thoughts, well, guess what? You just lost your job. or they're going to slow walk you out. So now you're even in a worse position, right? And so I just got to thank you. And just so you know, and to let the CIA and NSA know, I'm of sound mind. I love my life, and I'm not suicidal. It was suicidal ideation. All right, so leave me alone,
Yeah.
please.
All right.
Yeah.
Go throw stones at somebody else.
Right. Please leave me alone. You know.
Good gosh.
But nonetheless, I just wanted to just bless you and thank you. You never knew that, but it was in a time of total unkindness and desperation and a desert like Hagar. It was a drop of water from above. So thank you.
Wow. Thank you, Michael. You have always been on my heart. And since I met you, I told you I sought you out. And I just feel like, those relationships on this. And for the listeners, Michael and I have never even been in the same room together. We just had a friendship this way because it has the way that it has panned out and been there for each other to encourage each other. And that's just been a beautiful gift. And I feel very, very blessed to have had that and to still have that with you. And so I hope that we can do this again because there's so much more to talk about. And I'm super excited for everything. Oh my gosh, Marvel and books.
So many things.
You
so
guys,
many things.
stay, follow this guy. Like things are happening.
Yes. At the first, the few, and the only on Instagram or _Cubano on TikTok.
And we're going to have everything on the link so everyone can find you. And you and I will be chatting soon.
Thank you very much. And please, everybody, please share her podcast. Please share it. Tell your friends about it. This is going to change the world.
Thank you. Thank you. All right.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Thanks for listening to the Cherished Lounge. Don't forget to like, follow, subscribe, and share this episode with someone who needs to hear it. New episodes premiere every Tuesday. Recorded and produced by Robert Altschuler at Command Creative Studios. Music by Danny Keene and Doug Maxwell. We'll see you next time in the Cherished Lounge, where soul, story, and wild grace meet.